Featured story tonight, we're going to talk all about the war in Iran and where to even begin. It's hard to say what is even happening here. We have effectively been in a stalemate with Iran for the past 8 weeks. And nobody really knows what is happening. What we are being told is that we are in a ceasefire with Iran because we are working out a deal. We are engaging Iran in diplomacy. There are bilateral negotiations between the United States and Iran. They're actually being mediated. They're indirect through Pakistan and Qatar. However, it's hard to say if that is even true. This is what we are being told. And yet at the same time, it seems that every week there is this familiar cycle where the administration comes out and they say on Truth Social or in the press pool or in the Oval Office, they will tell us that Iran is begging us to make a deal. They have begged us for an extension of the ceasefire. They want to make a deal really badly. They're making major concessions and that a deal is imminent. We have probably heard this no fewer than a dozen times since the war started. And then what inevitably happens is that within 24 to 48 hours, the Iranian side will come out publicly and say that everything the administration is saying is a lie. And Iran will come out and say, we are not talking to the United States. We don't want to talk to the United States. We don't want to make a deal. We can wait the United States out. We have all the time in the world, and we're not making any concessions. These are our demands, and they haven't changed at all. That's the second part. And then within days of this, the United States comes out. Trump in particular will say that he is finally done messing around, and the Iranians are not taking him seriously, and they're crazy, and they don't know what they're doing, and if they don't get their act together, then we're going to bomb them again. And this is a cycle. We have seen this basically every week for the past 8 to 9 weeks. They want to make a deal. They're making concessions. A deal is imminent. We are planning all these meetings. We're going to Pakistan. We're doing this and that. Iran says none of that is true. Our demands haven't changed. It's still the same. And then Trump comes out and says we're going to bomb them. And then it starts all over again the next week. It's like we all just forget. Starts all over again the next week. We don't bomb them. Trump comes out and says, oh, we don't need to bomb them because they begged for a ceasefire and they want a deal more than anyone knows, and they're making concessions. They call us liars. He threatens to bomb. This has been the cycle. And it's hard to know exactly what the strategy is or what even the objectives are. Remember, the original objectives in the conflict were announced by Trump the day that the war started. We were seeking the destruction of Iran's stockpile of highly enriched uranium. We wanted to destroy their enrichment capability. We wanted to degrade their stockpile of missiles and drones. We wanted to stop them from supporting regional proxies. We wanted to sink their navy and institute a regime change. Those were the initial objectives, and we have achieved none of these things. We have not destroyed their highly enriched uranium. We've not destroyed their nuclear capability, and they're not willing to give up either of those things. We have not destroyed their stockpile of drones and missiles. We haven't even significantly degraded them. They're actually rebuilding what they've lost, and that will be completed within 6 months. We failed at regime change. If anything, the regime is now stronger. At the minimum, it is more resilient, it is more defiant, and it is dug in. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. So if we have not achieved our objectives, then have we abandoned them? And if we haven't abandoned them, then how are we going to achieve them in the future without re-engaging Iran militarily? And this is sort of the fundamental question, which is, we have all these objectives that we failed to complete, which, by the way, now includes also the opening of the Strait of Hormuz without Iran being able to charge tolls. So we haven't achieved any of the objectives. In order to achieve them, it would probably require a significant military escalation in terms of tactics and strategy. It might involve a ground war or attacks on civilian infrastructure or the use of weapons of mass destruction. But it seems that that is off the table. It seems that everybody realizes the administration is unwilling or unable to do this. And so if the objectives have not been completed, and if the United States is not willing or able to escalate in such a way to achieve those objectives in another round of attacks, well, then does that mean the United States has abandoned its goals? And it seems that for the past 8 to 9 weeks, we are slowly coming to terms with the fact that we have lost the war. We have not achieved our objectives. It is impossible now to achieve them. It is most likely cost prohibitive or impossible to achieve anything that we set out to achieve. And so what would you call that if we are forced into a position of unilateral retreat, unilateral withdrawal and surrender after we failed to achieve a single objective? Well, you would say that we lost the war. You would say that we lose. We tried, we failed, and now we're done. So we lost. We hit them with everything we had. The regime survived. They still have their missiles. They still have their nukes. Actually, they have the Strait of Hormuz under their control, whereas they did not before. And there is nothing we could do even to get them to make any concessions. So it's not even like a negotiated settlement. It's not even like we brought them to the table and had leverage and we got them to agree to certain things. This is like a unilateral total defeat. And it seems that the administration has simply been in denial. What has been happening over the past 8 to 9 weeks? Well, it seems that in the first few weeks, the administration was looking for a creative military solution that might give us some leverage to have a negotiated settlement. It seems like after the first 4 to 6 weeks, the Pentagon realized that what we were doing wasn't working. We were bombing Iran, and it was having very little effect. Whereas Iran's attacks on us and our allies were very effective. They were destroying U.S. bases. We were running out of our interceptor stockpile. Our Gulf allies were being destroyed. Their real estate, tourism, banking industries were all being affected by this. Our very limited number of THAAD systems and Patriot missile batteries, radar systems, our ISR was all being destroyed across the region. So it seems that there was this realization in the beginning that military options are not working. And actually, we're doing more harm than good. So we abandoned that. Then they started to consider, well, maybe there is a way, maybe there is some creative solution where we can thread the needle and we can escalate the tactics against Iran in a way that is more than what we have done already, so it might be more effective. Like, let's say, for example, we invade one of their islands, or we bomb their energy infrastructure, or we bomb their civilian infrastructure. In other words, we escalate the tactics qualitatively. We do something we haven't done yet so that it might be more effective than what we tried and which failed. But how do we escalate more than what we did before, but without triggering a brutal retaliation from Iran? Because, of course, if we hit their energy, then Iran will retaliate and bomb Saudi Arabia's energy, which is unacceptable to us. If we bomb their civilian infrastructure, they'll bomb civilian infrastructure in the Gulf, which is unacceptable. So we were looking for maybe something in the middle, more than what we did before, but less than something that would trigger an unacceptable retaliation. And so this is where Trump was brainstorming and basically bluffing, threatening to invade Karg Island, threatening to invade the islands in the Strait of Hormuz, threatening to launch some kind of raid inside Iran to secure the highly enriched uranium, threatening to bomb all their bridges and ports and energy infrastructure. Now, I think eventually the Pentagon realized, just like they realized before there were no military options that were working in the initial phase of the conflict, I think eventually they realized there's nothing else we could do short of inviting a brutal Iranian response. If we invade the islands, all the soldiers are going to die and they're going to bomb Saudi Arabia and Emirate oil. If we bomb their civilian infrastructure and this huge apocalyptic attack like Trump was threatening, they will do the same thing to all the Gulf countries and you set back the global energy market literally 10, 15 years. There's no way, even if we wanted to, that we could take back control over the Strait of Hormuz. So I think they realized that wasn't going to work. And this is when the Trump administration then imposed a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. This was the next form of denial. They said, okay, so what we were doing wasn't working. There's nothing more that we can do militarily. So then they came up with this harebrained idea. Trump administration said, we're going to use the U.S. Navy to close the Strait of Hormuz to Iranian shipping. Because how it has worked so far is that Iran's IRGC is closing shipping for everybody other than them and their own allies. So Iran still has sea-based shipping at all of their ports going through the strait. Obviously, they're not going to target their own ships with mines and drones and missiles. So they still have trade through the Strait of Hormuz. So the Pentagon came up with this idea that we would interdict their shipping. We would close the Strait of Hormuz on the opposite side. So now all of our allies can't send their oil out through the strait because they'll be mined or bombed by Iran. And Iran's trade can't go in or out of the Strait of Hormuz because we will interdict that from the Arabian Sea on the other side of the Strait of Hormuz. And the idea is that if we are under economic pressure because the supply of oil is being choked off in the strait, then we can put economic pressure on Iran by choking off all of their trade, all of their commercial shipping in the strait. However, the Pentagon has determined that there is no guarantee this will have any impact. The IRGC has complete control over the country. And so even if there are shortages, even if there is an economic breakdown, there will not be any civil disorder that will cause the collapse of the government. They can go the distance. It's not going to hurt them that badly. And there are other ways that Iran can insulate itself from this because they have land-based trade routes through Pakistan and through Central Asia. And they've actually opened up more border crossings to guarantee this.
And that's the thing. They can get to Russia and China overland. Unreal. And how many battleships did America send to try and to do their blockade? If Iran send 20 tankers through, can they stop them all? No. It's just been a total failure.
We are, in some sense, going to give Iran reparations. We might call it something else, but it has been floated to the New York Times that we're going to open up some kind of international reconstruction fund like the Gaza Peace Board for Iran. And we might let them collect a toll in the strait, but we're going to let them call it something else, like an environmental protection fee. So they are going to control the strait. They are going to charge money. They'll call it something else. And they are going to get their reparations, but through some kind of international consortium, through private hands, sovereign wealth funds, something like that. We're going to end our blockade. They'll open up the strait. This is sort of the architecture and framework of the deal right now. But the one outstanding item is this business of a ceasefire on all fronts. And Israel continues to escalate the conflict in Lebanon after it was announced about a week and a half ago that Iran and the United States had basically reached a deal. Netanyahu vowed to intensify the fighting in Lebanon and started bragging about how many Hezbollah militants they've killed. And ground forces in Lebanon pushed further into the country. And so this is where we get to this week. Trump calls up Netanyahu and has a very bad phone call with him. And he's quoted as telling Netanyahu, "Are you fucking crazy? I kept you out of prison. You're going to make everybody hate Israel. What the fuck are you doing in Lebanon?" This is the conversation. And according to anonymous sources, they say that he was screaming, he was furious. This was reported in the American press and in the Israeli press. And this went out to the public. And what is the purpose of this story getting out there? Because there's sort of two developments inside of this, which is one, the phone call happened, and two, the administration wanted everybody to know that it happened. It's really two stories, which is that one, there is some real tension between Netanyahu and Trump. But secondly, Trump wants that to be public. Why does he want it to be public? Because he wants to embarrass Netanyahu. Embarrass Netanyahu to who? To us? No, he doesn't care about that. He wants to make Netanyahu look bad to the other Israeli ministers. He wants to make Netanyahu look bad to the Israeli public. Why? Because Israeli elections must be held before late October of this year. And if the Israeli prime minister is seen as messing up the U.S.-Israel relationship, then that person becomes deeply unpopular. Because the U.S.-Israel relationship is Israel's most important relationship. So the Israelis are going to look at Trump and Netanyahu, and they're going to say, Netanyahu, why is our top Goy mad? Why is King Goy mad? Trump is your slave. He's doing everything for us. He is the most pro-Israel president. If King Goy is not happy, you're fucking up. Why is our Goy, why is King Goy not happy? Why is our golem throwing a temper tantrum on the phone? What did you do to piss this guy off? This guy has given us $25 billion in aid. He gave us Iran. He gave us Gaza. He gave us the West Bank. What did you do to upset this guy? You're messing everything up. And this is to make Netanyahu unpopular before the Israeli elections. Why? Because Trump is actually trying to leverage Netanyahu into stopping the fighting in Lebanon so that Trump can make a deal with Iran. Trump is basically saying, look, I'm fighting this war for you. And he's basically said that explicitly in public. He has said to the press, who is this war even for? It's for the Gulf countries and Israel. Trump has literally said it to the press. We are fighting this war on behalf of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Israel. He says, so why the fuck aren't they helping us? Why is it on us to open up the strait? It's their oil. Why is it on us to finish the job and destroy Iran? It's their airports and hotels and desalinization plants that are...
But sorry, why are they not helping? Because they expect America to help. They are paying America to help. America want to buy it, or they don't want to miss out on their cut. So it's not just, the blame doesn't just fall on the GCC.
Getting hit with drones and missiles. So what are they doing? And Trump is also saying, by the way, this war is also ruining my favorability and approval rating. His approval rating is lower than ever. They're getting killed in the generic ballot. They're going to lose the midterms. Gas is $5 a gallon. And so Trump is saying, why am I losing popularity fighting your war that you won't even help us win? And he goes to Israel, and how about you? You think you're going to sail to re-election? Well, my party is going to lose the lower chamber? I don't think so. So Trump says, if you won't help me end the war and salvage my presidency, well, then maybe I'm going to throw a wrench in your re-election plans.
And that's it, like. And that's exactly how it goes. Crazy, crazy. But that's it for this one.